how's your week been so far? Has it been productive? Have you hit your goals and gotten things done like you'd hoped at the beginning of the week? Do you even know? My guest today is Jeff Sanders, and he's going to lay out the why and how of conducting a weekly review to help us make sure we're getting the most out of our week and out of ourselves. It doesn't take that long, and it can make a huge difference in our overall productivity. Keep listening. You're going to hear more on today's One Simple Thing podcast.
It's time to build a better business by building a better you. This is One Simple Thing.
Welcome to the show. It's Dave Kirby. Thank you for listening to the One Simple Thing podcast. Thanks to those of you who have joined us over the last few days. Thanks to Lolly Daskell, who mentioned us in her article on Inc. Magazine's website, 100 Podcasts That'll Make You Better, Smarter, and Wiser. Really appreciate her featuring us. We've seen a lot of new folks that have been popping into the show. If you appreciate it, if you enjoy it, we hope you'll subscribe. Easy way for you to do that, go to the website, onesimplethingonline.com, and in the top menu, you'll see a menu item that says Support the Show. It's right in the top right-hand corner, Support the Show. In there, there'll be a banner ad for subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, an easy way to take you to our iTunes page. Hey, thank you again to Lolly. Thank you to all of you who have listened over the last several days to the One Simple Thing podcast. My guest today is Jeff Sanders. He is the host of the 5 a.m. Miracle podcast, and now he's a best-selling author of a book by the same name, The 5 a.m. Miracle, Dominate Your Day Before Breakfast. Really appreciate Jeff being with me again today. Jeff, welcome back to the One Simple Thing podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
We have talked about some great strategies from your book, The 5 a.m. Miracle, Dominate Your Day Before Breakfast. We've talked about goal setting. We've talked about morning routines. We talked about achieving kind of equilibrium zero or some productivity strategies on the last episode. I would encourage people to go back and listen to those. Today we're going to kind of talk about, I think, probably the element that pulls it all together. I think about the quote from Peter Drucker, who said, you can't manage what you can't measure. So today's episode is all about kind of measuring and tracking and evaluating how effective we are in doing what we do. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. That's just right. There's no doubt that the review process or the idea of being able to analyze your whole life is very powerful.
So, for those who are thinking, man, I'm setting up all these routines and now I gotta set up another routine, which is to review my routines. It seems like it's getting complicated. Does it have to be complicated?
No, and in fact, I think one of the best parts about having a really set review process is that you can find ways to make things simplistic. And that's really what I love the most about my own review process, is that it gives me the chance to find those areas where things are too complex or too complicated or too messy and clean them up. And I think that that's why I love the review process so much, is because I'm able to truly analyze my life and say, well, this area is way too much going on here. So what can I do to clean this up? How can I get rid of things? And then I feel so much better right away. So I think that's right away, that's a great reason to do a review.
Do you have a personal example maybe of something you've discovered in your weekly review that caused you to change your routines?
Yeah, the one thing that I tend to do is overschedule my days in advance. And so if someone asks me today, like, hey, Jeff, are you available on Thursday afternoon? I'll just say, yeah, sure. And I'll write it down on my calendar. And then by the time Thursday arrives, I realize, wow, I have overscheduled this entire day, and it's going to be almost impossible to get everything done. And then, of course, I feel stressed out. And one thing in my review that I love to be able to do is I can look forward to this and look at my calendar coming up and say, well, what days have I already know I've overprogrammed? And how can I literally reschedule these, cancel appointments, move things around, and under schedule every single day. Leave a lot of wiggle room because I know that things are going to pop up. And so I find that every single week I have to force myself to unschedule things and delete things from the calendar, because if I don't, I will definitely be overprogrammed when those days show up. And that process is just too daunting to go through every time.
So your weekly review then becomes kind of a weekly forecast too, right? So you look back at the week and you go, here's what I did right. Here's what I did wrong. Here's how I can adjust next week so I don't make those same mistakes again.
Exactly. I think that one of the best parts about a review is learning from your past mistakes and being able to, to not repeat those. And so if you look at your past behavior and say, well, I was planning to meditate every day last week and I did it once. Well, then why not? Like what can I do next week to ensure I have space for that? Or, if I was too overstressed or I was, I overcommitted myself, whatever it is that you've done, you can look at that objectively if you can without the emotion and really ask yourself, well, then how can I improve for next week and what structures can be in place to make next week that much more effective?
Is there a process for the weekly review? Can you kind of walk us through when, how, those sorts of ideas?
Well, my review process happens on Sunday evenings. So you can do yours whenever you'd like. Mine used to be on Fridays, and then I moved to Sundays. The best time period is one where you feel like you've reached the end of your week and you have some quiet space to really plan your time. I also have a meeting with an accountability partner on Monday mornings. And so I get together another guy who has another business, and we discuss our weeks together. And that provides an extra layer of accountability to kind of force me to do my review to talk about it with him. But one thing I do is on Sunday evenings, I'll block out about 2 hours span of time, and I'll sit down and I will look at my life. I'll look at my past projects. I'll look at my past calendar. I look at my own kind of ideal week, and then ask myself those kind of critical questions. What did I do well this week? What did I not do well this week? What can I fix for next week? And I go through this a very simple checklist of questions, and then ask myself, and to answer those, how can I improve for next time? And that process takes a little bit because I have to do a lot of scheduling and rearranging, but it's so empowering to do it because I feel so much more in control then when Monday morning shows up. I am very much ready for the day.
Now, the weekly review doesn't take the place kind of reviewing each day. Do you also do that on a daily basis?
I do. It's a much more smaller process, but yeah, every morning I review my task list and make sure that day is optimized because, life changes all the time and things pop up. So you definitely need a smaller daily review, but I find the weekly review to be very effective, kind of the bigger picture ideas and the more of the structural and habit formation tactics to make sure that you have the bigger rocks in place.
So I'm kind of daily reviewing, and then I take the weekly review where I spend maybe an hour or so and just kind of look back at my week. Are there any other priorities during that weekly review that are important?
I think the main thing is making sure you know what your wins and losses are and then making sure you know how to improve. That's really kind of the main chunks. You can do additional things. Like I have an ideal week template that I review. I also look at update progress reports on my latest projects. Really, you can do whatever you'd like to do in the review. The point is that you feel like you have really understood what you did and what you're going to do. And if that involves more in-depth work, that's totally fine. But I think the real key there is to understand how you're going to make the next week coming up the best it can be.
I'm thinking as we're talking here about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits book, 7 Habits of Highly Productive People, and he gives the grid that includes things that are urgent and things that are important. And how so often, we sacrifice the important on the altar of the urgent, right? So we're so committed to getting stuff done that we forget about the things that are really important. And it seems like in every area of our life, whether it's exercise or whatever else, we go, well, I don't have time for that. When the truth, and I think this review process falls in that category too, the truth is you don't have time not to, right?
Oh, exactly. I think that I actually have a quote on my vision board in my office from Stephen Covey that says, schedule your priorities. That's all it is, which is a complete reminder that there are things that I have prioritized in my life at some point, and I want to maintain that. And so it's a reminder to me to actually put on the calendar the things that matter the most. And, working out's a great example because it's one thing that people tend to skip right away when it really is a priority. It really does matter. And when you make the time for it, you realize that there are more efficient ways to organize your time to guarantee you can do the things that really do matter. The best example of that is when people, have a heart attack or they have some sort of, massive health problem and their doctor tells them, if you don't make a change, you're going to die. Well, that's a really dramatic example, but it's one that causes change and realize, wait a minute, I've had the time all along. I just didn't prioritize it. And when you do those things, you find the time has been there the entire time.
And, just on a practical level, it might take you an hour or two to review. But when you find these weak spots in your schedule and your planning or your actions for the previous week, you might make changes that will save you 5 or 6 hours in the coming week. So that 1 or 2 hours was a pretty good investment.
Oh, definitely. I find that I love when I'm able to do that, when I'm finding those, weak spots in my own schedule to free up additional time. Nothing I love more than canceling something, because I just feel like it's such this breath of fresh air. It's like, oh my gosh, that thing doesn't have to happen anymore. Awesome. Now what can I do at that time? And I find that process can happen every single week for you in your review, and you realize, wait a minute, there's so much more opportunity here to make the time with the things I want to do. And I just think that's just an awesome and invaluable process.
I don't have time to exercise. You do have time, and you don't have time not to. I don't have it. It costs too much to eat right. We say that one, eating organic foods. It's expensive, but in the long run, it's a whole lot cheaper than the heart attack and the $250,000 hospital bill, right? And the same thing happens here. Your weekly review could end up changing your life.
Oh, it definitely could. I think there's so much room for improvement when we're able to see our whole lives and really ask those questions. It's amazing just how much progress you can make in your own life by simply just scheduling your life more effectively, because then you can follow that plan and see in that very next week how effective your planning is, and you free up all that time, and then you get so much more done. So it's a great process.
So where do we start this today? I know we schedule a review. Is there any kind of magic bullet that will help us get started on this?
Well, I think, scheduling the review is probably the first best thing. I would also say to schedule a location where you can definitely be either alone or with maybe a business partner or someone you want to work with or a spouse. You can do your review anywhere, but I think doing it in a focused place is a great way to start. So it could be at the library. It could be, in a home office, but schedule a location and a time where you can be alone and totally focus and think about how your week is going to go. I think that it's easy to just kind of blow it off or to not prioritize it, but to have a location to go to do it adds an extra sense of importance to it. So I think finding a way to prioritize the review, schedule it in your calendar, and even to write down a specific list of here's the process I'm going to go through and follow that process every single week.
Jeff Sanders, our guest here. His book is called The 5 a.m. Miracle, Dominate Your Day Before Breakfast. And for those of you wondering, Jeff is every bit as energetic in real life as he is on this show. And he lives it, and you can live it as well as you go through the steps that he lays out very plainly in his book, The 5 a.m. Miracle. Jeff, thank you again. I'm very honored that you're on the show. Congratulations on the success of the book. Hopefully we can get a few of our listeners to go out and pick up a copy as well.
That's awesome. It was a lot of fun today, Dave. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Jeff. Not only is Jeff an awesome author and productivity expert, but he's also, I consider him a good friend. And I really appreciate Jeff being on the show today. Hopefully you will pick up a copy of his book. It's called The 5 a.m. Miracle. You'll see the banner ad on the right-hand side of the page when you go to OneSimpleThingOnline.com. Would recommend you click on that banner and pick up your copy from Amazon.com. Again, it's called The 5 a.m. Miracle. You can see the banner ad on the right-hand side of the page at OneSimpleThingOnline.com. Also, set up a new Support the Show page. Easy way for you to show your love to One Simple Thing. There are links to be able to rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. There are also links there to be able to share us on Facebook and Twitter, and also a link to sign up for the mailing list. So you can do all of that in one spot now. Just look in the top menu for Support the Show when you go to OneSimpleThingOnline.com. Thank you again, everybody who's found us over the last few days. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll be part of the ongoing family here at One Simple Thing. I'm Dave Kirby. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.